Hello, my name is Ausa and welcome to my channel Let's Learn Icelandic. Today we're going to tackle something big because we're going to start with the Icelandic cases. So let's start from the beginning. First of all, what are the cases? What even is the purpose of them? So typically when you have a language, you have some way of indicating what is the purpose of each word in a sentence. One very common way to do this is, for example, with word order, and this is what you use typically in English. So when you say the boy loves the girl, you know that it's the boy who loves the girl because he's the first in the sentence. If you say the girl loves the boy, the meaning of the sentences changes. Now it's the girl who is loving. So word order is one way of doing this. Another way of doing this is with articles, like you do in Japanese, for example. You say anata e, anata wo, anata ga, and it tells you where these words belong to the sentence, what is the purpose of this word. Another way of doing this is with cases. Okay, with cases. So you inflect the noun or any word just to indicate what is the purpose of the word in the sentence. So this is the fundamental, most simple part of what cases are. Cases is just a grammatical tool to tell you what's the purpose of the word in the sentence. Okay, sounds easy enough. Okay, so now we know in the most simplest sense why we are doing this, and now I have to tell you that I have some bad news and some good news. Let's start with the bad. Okay, there will be good news later, so don't panic, there will be good news, but let's start with the bad. And the bad news is this: the cases in Icelandic are tough. They are really, this is difficult. I mean, I don't think any sane person will tell you otherwise, but this is very difficult. And it's difficult for several reasons. First of all, nummer 8, you have to know what case to use. So in every situation, you have to know which case to use, and this is not always obvious. There are some rules of thumb, but as a rule, it's not always very easy to know which case to use in which instant. Nummer 2. There are just so many things that change with the cases. It's just so many things. We have the nouns, of course. The nouns will change with the cases. Also the definite article, meaning the or the greiner in Icelandic. This will also change depending on the case. So the word changes and the noun cases. And this also applies, for example, to nouns of people. So names of people, names of cities, names of anything. All of it changes. Not only that, but all the adjectives change, okay? The adjectives that exist in the male, the female, and the neutral form, they all change in a different way depending on the form, and then of course they also change differently depending on whether they're singular or whether they are plural, and this is of course also true for the nouns. The nouns change differently depending on whether they are singular or plural. So you have the nouns, you have all the names of people, the names of everything in the world. And then you have all the adjectives. And on top of that, all the pronouns change. Okay, all the pronouns change according to this. And also not only the pronouns like he, she, it, etc. But also words like somebody, someone, everyone, many. All of these words change too. So this is complication number 2, nummer 2. But complication number 3, nummer 3, is that there are irregularities. Okay, let's just leave it at that. There are irregularities. So knowing how each word changes with each case, it's tough. It's tough. Okay, so I think from the start, You need to accept the fact that as long as you will be learning Icelandic, you will be improving on this. Okay. I think this is just something that you need to accept from the start. You cannot say, okay, I will work super hard for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, pick your months. I mean, it doesn't matter. You cannot say, I'll work super hard and then I'll know it flawlessly from now on. It doesn't work like this. You will have to put in the months of hard work, but it just means that you will gradually improve along with the rest of your language. I mean, it's the same. Languages are a little bit in that, like in that way. I've been using English for decades, but I'm still improving on my vocabulary, on everything. It's a little bit like this. So I think you need to accept that the cases are on this level. It's something that's going to follow you throughout your language learning when it comes to Icelandic. But I promised there will be good news, and here are the good news. If you mess up your cases, and you will, so many times you will, if you mess up your cases, most of the time it doesn't matter so much. Most of the time you're fully understandable, even if you use one wrong case in a sentence, something like this. One of the reasons for this is that every single Icelandic person that you meet, is going to expect you to mess it up 100%. So they're going to expect that you get it wrong every single time. So if you get it right some of the time, they're like, whoa, that was impressive, that was amazing. So the expectation of Icelanders for you is already super, super low. Okay. This is of course only true if your sentences are simple. Let's say if your sentences are super simple, you keep them in the same structure as English or something like this, you will always be understandable. But if you want to express yourself in a more nuanced way and your sentences become more complicated, then of course if you get it wrong 100%, then you start to become more difficult to understand. But if you keep it simple, even if you do almost everything wrong, people will still understand you. Okay, and so because of these low expectations, we know that it's hard. It's hard for us too. I mean, it's hard for us too. There's very few Icelandic people who get it right 100% of the time, and this should also not be your expectations. You should not go into it saying, I will learn for 1 month and then I will do it 100% correctly. This will not happen. There are foreigners who do it wonderfully, almost 100% correct on the same level of Icelanders, but because our expectations of this is so low, if you get the level of something like 70%, meaning that you get it correct 70% of the time, that's already a very high level. Okay, it's a very high level, and then you're speaking excellent Icelandic, like absolutely outstanding, fantastic, just so you understand the levels that we're talking about. And understand that this level will not necessarily always grow with your language learning, because in the beginning you might get it 70% correctly with very simple sentences, but then as your Icelandic becomes better and better, you might be able to get more and more complicated sentences, still with 70%, maybe 80% if you're fantastic, 60 to 80% correctness. So it's not like it will easily just always get better and better, but your sentence structure will get better and better, so you will be able to apply your level on more sophisticated and better sentences, and thereby you will be able to communicate better in Icelandic, which I think should be the main goal. And last but not least, this will up your Scrabble game. Okay, because in Icelandic Scrabble you can use any grammatical form that exist for the word to put on the Scrabble table, and there are so many. And then of course you have the composite words, so you can add this. So Icelandic Scrabble is very intriguing, let's say, in that sense, and I don't understand. I've never played Scrabble in English, but it sounds like a very boring game to me. Sorry, but it does. Okay, now we've handled the good and the bad. Okay, the good and the bad. The bad is that it's difficult and will take you a long time, but the good part is that if you make mistakes along the way, this will not or should not stop you from improving your Icelandic in general. This is something that you will just improve a little as you move on. So first of all, let's deal with some nomenclature. Let's deal with some vocabulary that we need to describe what is happening. Okay, sorry I'm being quite negative towards English in this lesson, but I think the English words, they are very abstract and they don't tell you anything. Like dative, what does that even mean? It's very random, theoretical, and doesn't really tell you anything. And in cases, like what does that even mean? So I think the Icelandic words are better in this sense. Okay, so first of all, one case in Icelandic is fall. Okay, fall. And then this is a neutral word, and so in the plural, for those of you who have followed, it would be many fall. Okay, fall. So one case is fall, many cases are fall. Okay. So when we are doing the inclination of the nouns and whatever, we call it bending the fall. It's bending the fall. So we're changing the case, or we're bending the fall in literal meaning. So this is why we call it a fallbeyging. Beyging is simply bending something. Að beygja means to bend, or also when you're driving and you're taking a turn, that's also a beygja. So fallbeyging. These are important words. Then we have 4 cases in Icelandic. 4 cases. And the names of them, first of all, we have the nominative, and this is called nefnifall. 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 Notice the B of the F. Nefnifall. And the literal translation of this is the naming case. The naming case, something like this. And that means that we use it when I say, ég heiti Ása, my name is this, we will use the naming case. And also when we're naming stuff, like this is a horse. Þetta hestur, then hestur is in the naming case. So this is the naming case. And this is also the case that appears in the dictionary. So this is the dictionary form of the word. The naming case, or the nefnifall. Nefnifall. Case number 1. Fyrsta fallið. Annað fallið, fall nummer 2, annað fallið, is the accusative in English. The accusative in English is called accusative in English, and in Icelandic we call it þolfall. Þolfall. And þolfall comes from the word þolandi. Þolandi. And this is somebody who, what's a good word for þolandi in English? So basically þolandi is if I do something to you, and I do it to you, then you are the þolandi. This is the general meaning. We will discuss more technical things later. The third case, þriðja fallið. Þriðja fallið, okay, fall nummer 3, is þágufall. Þágufall. The soft G, þágufall, okay. And this is called dative in English. No idea what the English means, but in Icelandic, þágufall means something in the benefit of. So if something is in your benefit, it's in þína þágu, it's in your þágu, let's say. So this comes a little bit from this, but the meaning is not so obvious. Finally, case number 4. Case number 4, fall nummer 4. Fall nummer 4, eða fjórða fallið, eignarfall. Eignarfall. And in English this is genitive. An eignarfall means the case of owning something, the case of ownership. Eign is a property. Eign is something that you own. So eignarfall is the case of property. Now the thing becomes, what is the thing that controls the cases? What is the thing that controls why this word has to be in this case and not in some other cases? Okay, there are 2 main players involved. First one is the verbs. Okay, the verbs control the cases, and the second one is the prepositions. Okay, so basically it's the verb and the prepositions, And sometimes it's just random things that don't make any sense. But 95% of the times it's even the verbs or the prepositions. Okay. So we generally say in Icelandic that this verb takes with it some case, or this preposition takes with it some case. Okay, this is the basis, the most basic things as you can learn about the cases. Just a little bit of introduction, and then soon I will do a lesson on a little bit more focused on how the verbs act on the cases, and then I will also do some lessons on how the preposition act on the cases. Okay, but this is a start and we can do it. I believe in you. See you next time. Bless, bless. Tengdu saman. Connect together the Icelandic and the English. Take your time, press pause, and then now I will give you the result. Nefnifall, the nominative, þolfall, accusative, þágufall, dative, and finally eignarfall, genitive. Hver eru föllin í íslensku? What are the cases in Icelandic? Try and write them down. Remember that trying and making some mistakes is always better than not trying at all. Press pause, take your time, and now I will give you the result. Föllin í íslensku eru nefnifall, þolfall, þágufall og eignarfall. Note the abbreviations I put here in parentheses because these you will find in the dictionary. The final exercise of today, fill this in. Í íslensku eru, so that the meaning is, in Icelandic there are 4 cases. This is not completely trivial. Do your best. Press pause. If you want a hint, here it is. The word for case in Icelandic is a neuter word. Okay, remember this. Try and fill out. Press pause. And now I will give you the result. Í íslensku eru 4 föll. In Icelandic there are 4 cases. That's all for today. Thank you so much and see you in the next episode. Bless, bless.